Hi, I'm here today to talk about my boot tapping Blvd quilt for Quilt Club this quarter. It is going to start at the end of September, and off the top of my head, I forgot what date it is. You don't really have to do any class preparation for this quilt if you don't want to, because there are 4 classes covering this quilt. We'll have plenty of time to talk about all the things. Some of the things that you should be aware of is that you can make this quilt in 3 different sizes. The requirements, fabric requirements and everything are on the back of this envelope based on what size you're making. You wouldn't even have to really make it a quilt if you didn't want to. I thought it would be really fun as like a table runner or placemats or something like that. If you want to do something like that, we can work on that as well. I'm going to be doing the throw size quilt. It is 60 inches by 72 inches. In the pattern, it calls for 12 fat quarters for the boot backgrounds and 12 fat quarters for the boots and checkerboards. I went ahead and bought half-yard cuts, and I'm using it for the backgrounds and the boots. I'm just going to mix and match the fabric so that they're not all the same on top of each other. You also will need some sort of accent. You can see in their sample they used white. In my quilt, I'm also using white. You will also need a little bit of a dark color for the boot sole. I just used a black that kind of had a pattern in it. But the most important thing you need to think about is they call for a fusible web. This is a raw edge applique quilt, and you will need some sort of double-sided fusible web. Sassafras Lane, who is the author of this pattern, recommends Transweb. At Kathy's, we carry 2 different kinds. We carry Heat and Bond Light, which is a sewable fusible web, but we also have Alex Anderson's Apple Web in store. And you can find them at a number of our locations. And the back of the pattern tells you approximately how much you'll need for what size you got. So one of the other things that I did with my pattern was I went ahead and made copies of the paper patterns in there, mainly because I didn't want to ruin my originals, but also because some of these are bigger pieces and you might want to tape them together before you trace them. The nice thing about these patterns is that the authors already reversed the image, so that it'll be, all you have to do is trace it and it'll be perfect when you cut it out. The fabric will be facing the right way. Now, if you would like to work ahead, you can go ahead and trace some of the things. So for example, I'm going to trace this horseshoe. I take a piece of this is Heat and Bond Light. One side is definitely paper. The other side is a shiny, bumpy material, and it's fusible, and this is how most fusible interfacing that side feels like. So what you would do is you would put the fusible side down onto your paper, and you would take your drawing instrument and just draw in all the solid lines of the pattern all the way around. Once you do that, and you could take your paper and trace a bunch of them at one time, but once you're done, you want to cut out around like this, leaving a little bit of a seam allowance around your piece. That's because when we fuse it down on the fabric to make the raw edge applique very neat, we want to be able to cut directly on that line through this fusible web and our fabric to make it a really crisp edge. Now, you don't have to do any of that before class. I'm going to be talking about lots of tips and tricks in class about this. Some other things that I think didn't make the supply list that I think will be handy in future classes is you will need some sort of paper tearaway stabilizer when we actually get to stitching our appliques down. And the pattern also says a Teflon pressing sheet would be very helpful when we're getting our appliques all together. We will discuss those in the first class as well. And as I said, you do not have to do any class prep if you don't want to. I just know some of you like to do it ahead of time. But I look forward to seeing you in class.